Good morning and welcome to this thought for the day for the Friday of Easter week. And what a wonderful week it's been of sunshine and of new life, just restoring the soul. And today we are looking at one of a series of passages this week from Paul's letter to the Corinthians in chapter 15. At the beginning of the week, when Jan was speaking, we had a passage in which Paul was speaking of the many witnesses of the resurrection of Jesus and inviting any doubters to go and speak to them, for many of them were still alive. And just yesterday, Nikki was speaking about a passage in which Paul was describing his readiness to face difficulty and persecution for sharing the gospel, because he did it in the context of the hope that he had of his own resurrection in Jesus. There's a program on the television called The Repair Shop, which you may have seen, in which people bring in treasured items in a distressed state to be restored by experts. Usually they're items of significance in the family because of the person who originally owned them and now deceased. And we're amused often by people when they receive back the restored objects, speaking of the original owner looking down with pleasure at the restoration. And it makes you wonder what they have in mind, whether it's someone sitting on a cloud and looking down and smiling. And Paul addresses this question about our resurrection bodies, what we can expect for the future, in the passage that we're reading today. It's from 1 Corinthians 15 and beginning at verse 35. But someone may ask, how are the dead raised? With what kind of body will they come? How foolish! What you sow does not come to life unless it dies. When you sow, you do not plant the body that will be, but just a seed, perhaps of wheat or of something else. But God gives it a body as he has determined. To each kind of seed he gives its own body. All flesh is not the same. Men have one kind of flesh, animals have another, birds another, and fish another. There are also heavenly bodies and there are earthly bodies. But the splendour of the heavenly bodies is one kind, and the splendour of the earthly bodies is another. The sun has one kind of splendour, the moon another, and the stars another, and star differs from star in splendour. So it will be with the resurrection of the dead. The body that is sown is perishable. It is raised imperishable. It is sown in dishonour. It is raised in glory. It is sown in weakness. It is raised in power. It is sown a natural body, it is raised a spiritual body. If there is a natural body, there is also a spiritual body. So it is written. Paul uses the picture of a seed that dies and then comes up out of the ground as something completely different, but still the same individual. It also always strikes me that he could have used better analogies than a seed, a tadpole and a frog, or a caterpillar and a butterfly. But my favourite is the thought of a dragonfly. Perhaps you know dragonfly larvae. They are extremely ugly, and they crawl around on the bottom of a pond eating unmentionable things for a year or two, before eventually they climb up a leaf sticking out of the water, go still, and then after a bit the skin breaks and out comes a wonderful dragonfly. Paul speaks of us having earthly bodies and speaks of heavenly bodies which are to come. Our earthly bodies are wonderful, some more wonderful than others, but he speaks of heavenly bodies as being even more special. Our earthly bodies are adjusted for life on earth, for the life that we live now, but we need completely different bodies for the life of heaven, and that's what we look forward to. at the end of this passage, which we shan't reach because we don't have a thought for the day on Saturdays, Paul says this: death has been swallowed up in victory. Where, O death, is your victory? Where, O death, is your sting? He invites us to look forward to something which is wonderful, something which is better. Not to fear death, but to look forward to it as a portal into something great which is to come, which God has prepared for us. So may God bless you with that hope today.